Hello and welcome to Let's Play Populous on the Sega Master System. So here's the title screen. There's something to read though. As a divine being, you have a group of followers from whom you derive your power. The more followers you have, and the greater their achievements, the more power you wield. Unfortunately, there is another group of people who follow a different deity. Since there is barely enough room in the world for your own magnificence, you must rid yourself of the opposition. To do this, you must use your great power to alter the face of the world, so your devout followers can crush the misguided. And then it goes to the other title screen. Copyright 1991, Electronic Arts, registered trademark, and Bullfrog Productions, licensed by Sega Trademark Enterprises Limited. Right, so here's the first world, Genesis. I'll just talk through the title screen. So the first world is number 0, it's Genesis. I'll go into how many there are later. Battle number is 0, just done that. Landscape is grassy plains. You either get grassy, there are 6 different types: grassy plains, snow and ice, desert, rock and lava, futuristic, and bitmap. I'll be showing you them all when they turn up, but the first one is grassy plains because that's the easiest. I'll explain why in a bit. Evil is very slow. Evil can either be very slow, average, fast, or very fast. That just determines how quickly they build land or create terrain, if you like. Evil rating is very low. It's either very low, low, average, high, or very high, and that determines the AI, the intelligence of the opposition, the computer-controlled opposition, which is evil. But it's not really, they're not really evil, and you're not really good. It's just you against them, and you need a different name, really. Build near towns or people. It's either build near towns or build near. It's either build near towns only or build near towns or people. If you can build near towns, it means you have to have a blue settlement flag to create terrain higher than sea level. And if it's build near towns or people, you can do it with a blue settlement flag. It's not just the settlement that has to be in the close-up map. You have to be able to see a blue settlement flag, one of your flags, or one of your walkers, and you can create terrain higher than sea level. If it's just build near towns only, you can still build terrain with a walker in view, but only up one level above sea level. So you only create it from sea level up to one level. So you can still build if you have a walker in view, so you're not trapped and you can't help him, but you can only help him a little bit. Anyway, the swamps are bottomless. The swamps are either bottomless or shallow. If they're bottomless, when a walker falls in them, unless it's a leader, when a walker falls in them, the swamp will still be there. When they're shallow, the swamp disappears when any walker falls in them. Water is fatal. That's provided you can do swamps, of course. Water is fatal. Water is either fatal or harmful. If it's fatal, as soon as a walker goes into the water, he dies immediately. Either any type of walker, a leader, a knight, anything, they'll die immediately. If it's only harmful, then they drown first, and the rate at which they drown depends upon the landscape. Most of the time you'll find it's harmful. Fatal is only really on a very few worlds, but a lot of the worlds at the beginning, because they make it easier at the start. But yeah. And then on to this bit, there's a little table here. This is good is you and evil is the opposition. That's the number next to population. It says population 3 good and 3 evil. That depends on the world. Sometimes you start off with a maximum of 15. That's the highest I've ever had. 15 you start with, or a minimum of 1. It's between 1 and 15. 15 is easier, of course, and 1 is more difficult, but it doesn't really matter. As soon as the world starts, that's when it really matters. But once you get the world going, it's irrelevant. That just means how many walkers you have at the start. Walkers or towns. That doesn't count, of course, if the walkers will gather into each other quite quickly. So if you start with 15 and you only have a small land mass at the start, they will gather into each other pretty quickly, and you'll find you won't have 15 at the start. You only really notice that you have 15 if they're scattered about the world, otherwise they'll just gather into each other. Then there's a little table of the powers we can do. Remember the powers we can wield from the little information at the start? The yes and no are the self-explanatory. Earthquakes, I'll be testing them all out in the first world just to show you. Earthquakes, swamps, nights, volcanoes, and floods. If it says no next to any of them on the same row, then you cannot do them no matter how much mana you have. So evil can do nothing, and I can do everything. But to do a power, you have to meet two conditions. You have to be able to do it on this screen as it tells you, and you have to and you have to have enough mana. But more about that later. So off we go. Building. So yeah, here's the start. So here we just build a house. That's a rock. You want to get rid of them. The only way to get rid of them is to drown them in the water, because settlements can't be built next to them. These are trees. Cropland, as you can see, the white bits next to the house. They get rid of the trees if they're in the right. See that cropland got rid of that tree, but they won't get rid of this one because there's no cropland there. Yeah, that little cross means that's my leader. You can't build a big castle if you're too close to the edge of the world, so what I like to do is just get him up and see if he can move towards the edge of the world. I mean the middle of the world more. Just one more, that's it. There you are, then it's a big castle. I like to call those settlement number 9s, because there are 9 different types of settlement, or 9 stages through which settlements have to progress. I'll demonstrate them all now. So I'll go to the lowest. So the lowest is a little tent like that. I'll just ignore the people, they won't die very quickly. Then the next one is that's 2. Then that's 3. Whoops, that's 4. That's the 5th one, a little cottage there. That's the 5th one, a nice stone modern townhouse. That's the 6th one. That's the 7th one, a sort of a well arch, not an arch, a wellway thing. Then that's the 8th one, a sort of a castle turret, and the big castle is the 9th one. So I like to call them a settlement number 9. I call them that on my guide, which you can read on Game FAQs if you can spot which one's mine. My one's the biggest one and the more comprehensive one. Yeah, so you can't build a settlement 9 next to the. It has to be at least 3 squares away. There's 1 square away, 2, 3. So a settlement 9 can only be built on this bit there, not there or there. Otherwise you'll only get the maximum settlement 8, number 8, which is just a castle turret. So keep building. You need as many settlements as possible, because settlements create population. You can't create population without a settlement. So yeah, I mean this is a pretty easy world because they can do nothing and they're very slow and very low and water's fatal. So that you can just I can easily just explain things here because it's pretty easy and I won't have any challenge in this level. More people over here. If you look at the little map at the top left there, the big map, that's the world map, you can actually see your population. The flashing blue dots are your walkers. The flashing white dots, white and blue dots, they're my settlements, whatever type, doesn't matter. The flashing grey dots are evil settlements, and the flashing red dots are evil walkers. So I can build near towns or people, so I can do anything, even with just a walker here. You see, that's an evil walker and an evil settlement. They're brown, whereas my ones are blonde, and their flags are red, whereas my flags are blue, and their cropland is dark, and their my cropland is white because I'm good, and white is good and black is dark, presumably. Yeah, as you notice, I can build here. See, the finger is pointy. I can do stuff because I can see the flag. Even though that's my settlement, I can't do anything now, even though I can see the cropland. You have to be able to see the flag to be able to do something. Flag, or in this case, people as well, walkers as well. But when it's towns only, it's just flags and walkers. But with a walker, on build near towns only, if you can just see a walker, you can only do this. You can't build higher than that, and you can't lower land. You can just do it up from sea level, like that. You can't do this, like that, on build near towns only. But as it's build near towns or people, I can do it with walkers as well. Yeah, so they're trees. As you can see, the cropland hasn't gotten rid of that tree, and that's because when it's a settlement number 9, the cropland is very strange. If the cropland that only matters is the corner, I'll demonstrate it here actually, the corner cropland. So if the tree were on the corner cropland there, it would get rid of it, or in the middle like that, or on the corner. This cropland there and there, a tree can go there, and it doesn't matter, it won't get rid of the tree. So there and there, a tree can appear, and a rock can appear there. But if a rock is there or there, then a castle won't be built, because cropland can't get rid of a rock. I'll demonstrate. I'll explain that better when I see an example. So yeah, so just get with a settlement number 9, a big castle. It takes a very long time for the a walker to come out. As you can see, I'll put the info shield on, and then information about the particular settlement is displayed in the shield in the top right. As you can see, the blue flag means it's a good settlement, and it means it's a settlement rather than a walker. So if it's a blue flag, it's on a good settlement. The ankh, the cross on the top left part of the info shield, means it's a good settlement as well. The evil one is represented by a small skull. The sword I'm unsure about. The manual states displays the cultural advancement of it, but I don't really understand what that means, because you start off with a fist and then go through like a ball and chain, a rock or a stone, and then go through a mace and then eventually a sword. But it has no bearing on the game whatsoever. I've managed to I've gotten very far at the game and gotten, in my opinion, humble opinion, an expert at the game, and I've never needed to know what that does. I've never understood it. And you also I'll just pause it quickly because they're doing stuff and I don't want to lose the game. You'll also see on the bottom right of the info shield a yellow bar, a maximum yellow bar and a black bar with a little bit of green. Now I'll just demonstrate what the yellow bar means. See, as I paused it, you can either pause it with the pause button or the ZZZ button, so you can either do that, doesn't matter. And then I can't do anything. I can still move around and shield things and look for things like that with these buttons. I'll explain them later, but I can't manipulate the world. Yeah, so the yellow bar, just unpause it, that demonstrates the strength of the size of the house. The size of the house is usually made better by more cropland. So the more cropland they're able to build on flat land, the better the house. So yeah, put the shield back on the house. So yeah, as you go down, the yellow goes down as well. So the worse the house, the more, a person keeps coming out. So they keep taking a shield, and then the worst one, a tent, does the lowest yellow. So then get it back up again. Now the green represents the amount of population inside. The better the house, the more population it can hold. As you can see, I'm lowering the house quality, and the green goes up. That's not because the population is rising inside it. It's because the capacity is lower. So it's the ratio of capacity of population inside the building, like that. You see, as it's a low quality house. See, as a person just went in there, he increased the population of the house, but that's irrelevant. I'll explain the fights later. So as I'm lowering the quality of the house, the capacity is lowered, so it looks like there's more population, but it isn't. It's just the capacity in relation to how much population there is. So when the green bar, when it gets maximum on any type of house, that means the population of the house is completely full and a walker will come out. Now because a settlement number 9 can hold a lot of population, it doesn't just increase bit by bit in order. It increases sort of like more. It more than doubles every time the house increases, especially with a settlement number 9. A settlement number 9 can hold a lot more than a settlement number 8. A lot more. And also, a settlement, the better the settlement, the more, the faster. This also depends on the landscape as well. The faster the population will be created. So naturally, you want a lot of settlement number 9s rather than the little ones like this. You want a lot of settlement number 9s. The more settlement number 9s you have, the faster population will be created. Because you want more population. If you just have loads of little settlements, then population will still be created, but at a lesser rate. So yeah. But the trouble with that is that if you have settlement number 9s, they take a long time to fill. I mean, you can, depending on the landscape, you can wait as much as 20 minutes for a settlement number 9 to completely fill with green, like it says on the info shield. And then eventually a walker will come out. But a lot of population will be left inside the settlement number 9, the castle, even after a person comes out. Now, to circumvent this, so you have to find a good balance of little settlements with large settlements, castles. The more castles you have, population won't come out. So, but to circumvent, I mean, I think the game intended you to not to have so many settlement number 9s, because population won't come out. But to circumvent this, all you have to do is make the settlement lower quality, and thus make the capacity of the settlement lower, so that a population, some population will come out, represented by a walker. So if I put the shield on another castle, you see there's a little bit of green in that, and that usually means that there's some population that is more than that, and a settlement number 8 can hold. So yeah, there's a lot in that one. It's half in that one. So if I get that one out, if I make the settlement lower quality, a person will come out, and that's usually how I get population out, because they won't ever, they take too long to come out of a settlement number 9, and when they do, they leave a lot of population inside the castle, unlike other smaller settlements. Whereas when when it's a smaller settlement, like on the edge of the world that can't be improved, the settlement, the population that comes out on its own is usually weak and takes a lot of the population with him. It's just the settlement number 9s are the anomaly, really. When some population comes out of them naturally, as I like to call it, they leave a lot of population inside. That's the evil leader, and they're the two papal magnets. Or papal magnets, they should be called, but I like to call them papal magnets because that's what I called them when I was little. They usually start off in the edge of in the centre of the world, at the start of a world. But I'll just move them. To move them, you have to have enough mana. Now, if you look at the top of the screen underneath the info shield, there's a mana bar, and it starts off just on the edge between the two arrows. And when you start a world, it starts at the two arrows, just between the two arrows and the ankh. And the two arrows means that's the mana you need to raise and lower terrain. If you don't have enough mana, you can't raise and lower terrain, even if a walker or a settlement is in the close-up map. You have to have enough mana, and at the start you don't have enough population. So they give you a little bit of mana at the start, just enough to move Papal Magnet. If the mana bar isn't on up to the Papal Magnet, you can't move it. You can only move it if you have a leader and if you have enough mana. You can always do it in every world. You're never not allowed to do it. So just move it so you can see both of them. So yeah, my one is, in this landscape at least, my one is the white ankh, and their one is a rather obnoxious looking skull. But yeah, if you don't have a leader, if he dies or he turns into a knight or whatever, you can't move the magnet anymore until you make a new leader. Yeah, so you gain mana by, mostly you gain mana by increasing population. So sometimes the mana will go up by a little reward that they give you if you kill their leader, if you take one of their castles, and they'll also punish you by lowering your mana a lot if your leader dies in a battle or you lose one of your castles, things like that. But I'll demonstrate that when that happens. Yeah, mana will be used when you will go down when you use it. So I'm up to Flood, and I'm up to I can do everything that's on the left of the arrow, providing I can do it on the information screen. So yeah, in order there: raise and lower terrain, move Papal magnets, do earthquake, then do swamp, then make a night, make a volcano, do a flood, and then Armageddon. I'll explain about all of them. Yeah, so as water is fatal, it kills them instantly like that. So I like to get people out like that by lowering the quality of the settlement like that. That's the way. Yeah, so I explained about the info shield on a settlement, but if I press the find this button, it finds the settlement or walker, evil or good, that bears the shield. So that if it's empty for whatever reason, then it won't find any of them, and the button will do nothing. So get him out and I'll explain. Yeah, so he has a bow and arrow. I still don't know what that means. So the little walker there means that means that's what he is. He's a walker, and the ankh means he's a good one again. And the two bars there represent how much population he represents. Usually that's how strong he is as well. But what it really means is how much population he represents. Yeah, the bar on the right is the lowest bar. When that fills up to the top, one notch is put on the left orange bar. So he's actually quite strong because he's half orange on his left. When the left orange bar fills up, the orange bar goes to the right and is replaced by a bar that fills up with yellow. And each time the orange bar, which is now on the right, fills up, and another notch is put on the yellow bar. And when the yellow bar gets maximum, he keeps getting more powerful, but it just doesn't show how much. So you can get him really powerful, but the more yellow he has, the more population he represents. So someone with maximum yellow will represent a lot of population. At the moment, if you notice on the left and right of the info shield is a blue bar and a red bar. That represents how much population. So I'm winning. That usually determines who's winning. The more population you have, the more power you should have. So I have just over halfway, and Evil has just under a quarter. Usually you can determine how powerful a walker can get if you make a powerful walker like a leader by how much population you have. At the moment I estimate I can only get about a half yellow walker with maximum of half yellow because my population is only about halfway. But the population doesn't stop growing even after it reaches the top. It still goes on, but you just can't see how far. So yeah. So now I'm going to test out some powers. Yeah, how I normally like to build is I don't do that because I don't do this because it takes too long. The easiest way to do it is just create a mountain, then lower it again, and it creates it like that. You see, if I create a castle like that, you see, because the rock is actually isn't on the corner or in the middle like that. It's on one of those ones, so a rock doesn't matter. But I like to get rid of them anyway. It can be a bit of a pain getting rid of them, especially when there's a lot. You see, that walker now has a little bit of yellow, so he's joined up with my leader. Yeah, that's their leader. So now I'm going to test out a few powers. Earthquake is first I'll do. All it does is shake up the terrain and mean it so that it slowly lowers it as well. So if you keep doing them, it'll lower the terrain. like that, and they'll die because the water's fatal. Slowly lowers it and just sort of, you know, shakes up the terrain a bit, but it does it over time and slowly lower it. I don't really like to use them because they're pretty useless. They don't really do anything. I mean, unless the water's fatal and you manage to drown someone, usually evil just get their the land straighten the land up pretty quickly, so they're pretty pointless. Next one is swamp. You get a little cursor, and it creates swamps at random, but only on flat terrain where there isn't a tree, a rock, or a settlement, like that. And when a walker falls in them, hopefully this one will demonstrate, yeah, it dies, just like drowning them in fatal water. Although they're bottomless in this case, so they're not disappearing. So to get rid of them, you just raise and lower the terrain, and they're gone. Next one to demonstrate. I won't demonstrate night yet. I'll demonstrate volcano. This raises the terrain like a mountain, like that, and creates rocks, which are, you know, are not really difficult to get rid of. You have to drown them, although evil can change them into another type of rock, which is easy to get rid of. Which leads me to another point, if I can find one. Yeah, there's one. As you can see, there are two different types of rock, one white, one grey, and what they look like depends on the landscape. But the white one has to be drowned. They both behave in the same way. They both make it so that settlements can't be built next to them. But the white one has to be drowned, whereas the grey one, which I like to call a good rock, I like to call the grey ones good rocks and the white ones bad rocks, because the grey ones, all you have to do to get rid of them is just raise and lower terrain, or just raise it like that, and they're gone. But to get rid of the white ones, you have to drown them. And evil have the unique ability of turning what I call bad rocks into good rocks. You can't do this. All you can do is drown them. That's the only way to get rid of them. Or you can earthquake. If you do a volcano, you can earthquake it and it gets it down. So I'll demonstrate. You can do earthquake. It's the only real use I have for earthquakes. Just do that and it slowly lowers it. And eventually it will drown the rocks, but only do it if you have mana to waste. Or if you can't be bothered, like that, and it's gotten rid of most of the rocks like that. Next one is flood. To demonstrate that, I'm going to have to create a few put the land on 2 tiers. What a flood does is it lowers the terrain by 1 tier. And replaces the 1 tier terrain with water. So if water's fatal, they can be pretty devastating. But I'll just demonstrate one quickly. So the world doesn't end, I'll just put a couple of evil settlements on 2 terrain, so they don't die when I do it. Like that, and then just do it. There we go. And it's killed the person with the shield and lowered the population, because I just killed a load of my population. It doesn't matter, I'll easily win, because water's fatal. And then you're back like that. Don't ever do that unless all your walkers, or most of your walkers, are on 2 terrain, because you will end up losing a world. Let's get rid of him. Yeah, and the one after that is the skull and crossbones, which you can just see on the edge of the screen. That's Armageddon. What that does is it ends the world very quickly. You can always do it, and evil can never do it, so there's no chance of you doing it. And it puts... Sorry about that. Yeah, Armageddon, it puts all the population into one walker, and puts the Papal magnets both at the centre of the world, so it forces all the population to fight against each other in one final battle. Usually, if you get up to Armageddon, you'll usually have usually have more population than evil do, but on very rare occasions you might not. Only do Armageddon if you have more. If you can see that you have more population than evil do, otherwise you'll lose. Yeah, then that's the end of the world. Yeah, to get to the end of the world, just to complete the world, you just have to wipe out every single bit of evil population, every single walker and settlement, and use different ways to do that. Right, onto these buttons, the behavioural modification buttons. The flag means settle. When you put it on settle, like I have now, it just means that the walkers will go around, find some flat land, and they will settle. They can't settle on cropland, and they can't settle on that terrain because it's next to castle cropland. You have to be 2 squares away from a castle. They could settle here, where my finger is. They could settle there. But yeah, that's all they'll do, is they'll just wander around aimlessly, trying to settle everywhere. The next one, the little walker person, that means they will try to gather. I'll just demonstrate. If you have it on gather then settle, it means they do this when you settle as well. I'll demonstrate. You see, they will seek out other ones with whom to gather, and that means join. It means the population will join, making a more powerful walker. Usually what that does is it just creates a more powerful walker, but I don't usually like to do that because it means that even though they do gather a bit when you just have it on settle, but when you have it on gather and settle, they notice each other from further away, and they will do it more, and they will gathering will take priority over settling. They'll only settle when there's no one there that they can with whom they can gather. So I don't really like to do it. It's only really useful on worlds where the terrain is harsh, which leads me on to another point. When a walker isn't in a settlement and it's walking around like this one, he will slowly lose little bits of population, lose power very slowly, and the rate at which this happens depends upon the landscape type. Grassy plains has quite a nice landscape. They won't really perish that much, and it's usually called the perish rate. So snow and ice and desert, for obvious reasons, have a high perish rate, whereas grassy plains doesn't, because it's just nice and grassy, and it's moderate climate. This is usually related to when water is harmful. The drown rate is usually proportional to the perish rate. So the faster the perish rate, the drown rate will be even faster. And if the perish rate is slow, then the drown rate will be slow as well. Although drowning is always faster than perishing, but they only drown at a rate if the water is harmful. If it's fatal, they die immediately, no matter what the landscape. Yeah, so that's that explained. The next one is 2 swords crossed. Now that means that that's called fight then settle, and when they do that, the walkers, they will go out and find an evil settlement or walker with whom to fight. See, they're seeking him out. And if there aren't any settlements or walkers, evil settlements or walkers around, they will settle as normal. But fighting takes priority, rather like gather than settle, where gathering takes priority. Fighting takes priority over settling. So usually at the start, it's best to have it on settle, because you don't want them fighting, and you don't really want them gathering at the start. You want them to build as many houses as possible, unless the terrain is really harsh and you don't have many. And you're worried that the population might perish. It's best to have it on settle. The last one is go to Papal Magnet, and when this happens, do I have a leader? No, I have no leader. Yeah, I'll just pause for a moment. No, after I get a leader. Yeah, when you put it on go to Papal Magnet, they'll all gravitate towards the magnet there, and the first one to reach, if they're not gathering, will become a leader. So he has an Ankh now, so he's a leader, and he'll just walk back and forth, and all the population will just gravitate towards him, making a very powerful leader like that. They'll all just gravitate towards him like that, and they won't ever settle when when they do this. They'll never settle. And this is usually used if you want to create a knight, or just a really strong leader, because you can do things with leader. You can move the purple magnet around, and which you can only do if you have a leader, by the way, if I said that. So and you do that, and you can move him around. So he'll go over there now, and you can manipulate it. You can put him into something like here, and you can make him fight. I'll just make him fight that castle, and then pause it so I can show you something. Actually, I'll pause it there. So, as you can see, when the shield is on someone who's fighting, there are two bars, a blue and a red one. If the blue one is filled up, it means the blue walker will win. If the red one's filled up, it means the evil walker will win. That's about it, really. It usually depends who has more population in him. So the higher the strength bars, that one will win, and it depends on that with a settlement. A settlement number 9 can usually hold as a maximum before a walker will come out of it naturally, about 3/4 orange of the left orange bar. So that's only if it's maximum though. So usually anything with more than half orange will be enough to defeat a settlement number 9 or any settlement. Anything yellow can defeat anything orange. Anything with a bit of yellow, with a yellow strength bar, will defeat anything with a bit of orange strength bar. So it's easy to work out who will win as long as you have the shield on them. But there are other ways of working it out. I'll explain that later. So yeah, so I'll get it off Go to Purple Magnet now. But yeah, you can manipulate and make him go places. So now that I have a really strong leader, or you don't need a really strong leader. You can just have any leader will do. But it's best to make him really strong. Yeah, he went into that spontaneously because I don't have it on Fight and Settle. And when you fight a settlement and you win, then you win the settlement. Yeah, so I can now make a knight because he's really strong. So I can knight him, but you can only do this if you have a leader, otherwise it will do nothing. So you have to have enough mana, a leader, and you have to be able to do it in the world information screen. So just press the knight button and it will knight him. And as the leader no longer exists, I have no leader now, so the Purple Magnet is placed wherever the leader ceases to exist, whether he dies or is turned into a knight, or if he gathers into a knight. If a leader gathers into a knight, the leader no longer exists. But walkers can gather into knights, and they will do, so be careful with that if you don't want your leader to go. Yeah, so he's a knight now, and a knight is a special type of walker. He has better AI. He's permanently on fight. He never settles, and he goes around fighting every single one he can find, and he will find them all in order. He never lets one go. He knows where they all are, and if water or a swamp is blocking him, then he'll just wait there and until a path is created. So yeah, and when he fights a settlement, he creates and he wins, of course. He has to win the fight with the settlement. He creates a ruined settlement, which is this, which is like the settlement used to look like, but sort of like burnt down a bit, and the cropland becomes ruined cropland. The ruined settlement is sort of like a rock, except it will obstruct cropland, but for some, unlike rocks, a settlement can be built next to it. The cropland is the same. It will obstruct cropland, and it will, and settlements can be built next to it. But in order to get rid of a ruined settlement, you have to drown it. It's the only way to get rid of it. Whereas cropland, you just have to go, just raise and lower the terrain like a swamp. The manual recommends not just leaving ruined settlements, but I don't really like to do that because they can pile up and obstruct the creation of castles, so I'd always like to get rid of them if I can. Evil can create knights too, and their ones are red, but only they can do knights, but more on that when I get up to it. I don't really want a knight anymore, so I'm going to swamp him. To swamp a knight, a walker normally is blind and oblivious and will just walk into a swamp if they're in front of him, whereas a knight has better AI, so they will avoid them. They know they're there and they won't walk into them. So the only way to swamp a knight is to do him underneath him. I'll just demonstrate actually. And the swamp can only be created on... Oh, he fell into it anyway. He fell into it because the walker was there, but normally that they don't fall in them. But to swamp a knight, you have to do the swamp underneath him. I know I just swamped my own knight, but that's because I'm just demonstrating. You have to do the swamp underneath him, but it is possible. So I've shown you the flood and everything now. Yeah, a knight will hunt down every single evil walker in settlement, and an evil knight will hunt down all of yours. So it's best to get rid of them. Yeah, so there are many different ways to get rid of their population. You can put it on fight and settle. You can swamp them all, but that'll take ages. You can drown them all if you want, but it's best just to fight them all and kill them all. Or you can put it on Armageddon. That's about it explained. Just these buttons. This button, I'll just pause it. You can use these while paused. Yeah, this button will do the shit. You can place a shield on anything. So on anything, evil walker. So I don't understand that he has a club and he has the same strength, and he has a sword and the same strength. It doesn't matter what they have. It's only strength that matters. That's place Papal magnet. That's pause. This will, if you press it once, it will find your leader. Obviously I have no leader, so it's not finding him. If you press it twice in succession, it finds your Papal magnet. So it's, as I have no leader, it's finding it from the first press. You press it 3 times in succession, it will find their leader. Again, they have no leader, so it won't find him. And if you press it 4 times in succession, providing you both have leaders, it will find their Papal magnet. That's that explained. This is find shield, as I said before. Anything that has a shield it will find. This button will find a fight that's in progress. So if there's a fight in progress, it will find it. If there are no fights in progress, which is likely because fights only last about a couple of seconds, it will just scroll at random through all your settlements like that. Only your settlements though. So if you want to find a swamp that evil have done, it's best to use this, and then it'll just scroll through your settlements until you find a swamp at random. This will find your knight, providing you have a knight. If you have no knight, it just scrolls through your walkers. But if you have a knight, it just scrolls through your walkers. I mean, just through your knights. So if you have a knight, you'll only be able to find your knight. But as I have no knights, I can find all my walkers with it. It doesn't find evil knights, only your knights. And that's all the buttons explained. So I'll just complete this world now. The easiest way to do it is to do Armageddon, so I'll just wait until I do Armageddon. I have slightly more population, so I will win Armageddon. So just wait until your mana goes up. Kill some of their population like that. Anyway, yeah, that's done now. I'm on Armageddon, so press the Armageddon button. Like that. Now what it's done is I can't do anything. I can't do anything now. I'm completely powerless. All I can do is same things I can do if I'm paused, like search for things and put the shield on walkers. It places both Papal magnets in the centre of the world like that. Swamps still exist, so they can still fall into swamps, but you can't create any more. It puts it on go to Papal magnets, so these buttons do nothing now, they're meaningless. And it draws everyone into the centre of the world so that they're forced to battle, they're forced to touch each other and battle. If water is harmful and you have someone drowning, generally you have to wait until the walker stops drowning. So make sure that no one is drowning before you do Armageddon, unless getting the drowning walker up will make you lose, in which case just do Armageddon and you have to wait about half an hour, or speed up the emulator if you're using an emulator like I am, and wait for him to drown. Otherwise you'll have to get him up beforehand, and he might tip the balance of the battle a bit. Yeah, if you have a knight going, the knight is immediately turned back into a walker. So any knights, good or evil, are turned back into walkers. Leaders doesn't matter. If you don't have a leader, when they go to the Papal Magnet, they'll create a leader. Otherwise, when you do Armageddon, all the walkers will go towards the leader. If they're blocked off by water, they're on an isolated bit of terrain, they will create bridges for themselves, and so you don't have to wait for them to perish or anything, or you don't have to plan a bit. But if they are drowning in harmful water, they will you will have to wait for them to drown, which is a bit annoying. If you accidentally press Armageddon, there's someone drowning, you have to wait. So make sure you don't have anyone drowning if you do it. And anyway, and then you just wait. It doesn't matter if any walkers left over, whatever. Just as long as all their walkers are dead, then you'll win. See, I have more population, so I win. And that's the end of that. Then we go to the game 1 screen. If you lost, it says game lost, and there's the same statistics, but you have to repeat the level. So game 1, battles won. So I won more than twice the number of battles they did. Number of knights, because it's Armageddon, 0. Number of towns, ditto. Number of castles, ditto, because it was Armageddon. The winner naturally will only have the loser, of course, has 0 on everything except battles. And your score, I'm not entirely sure about score. I think score is dependent upon how many on the statistics here, and whether you have a leader or not. If you have a leader, you get more score, and if you don't have a leader at the end of the game, then the score is significantly lower. So and the more score you have, I think it's related to the next screen, which is how many worlds you jump. So here's the blue hooded figure. Well done, mortal. You start off as mortal, then after 100 worlds it goes to well done immortal, I think. And then it goes to, after 200 worlds, he changes to well done greater being. And then he says, I think, well done eternal. And then I think he says, well done, after 500 worlds, he says, another 100 worlds, he says, well done eternal God. And that's it, you stay as eternal God for the rest of the game. So yeah, he tells you the one you've conquered, and then he says you the next one. As I said before, score is related to how many worlds you jump. So I was on 0 and I'm now on 5, so I've jumped 5. If you do it really well, the maximum number of worlds you can jump is 9, and the lowest number is 1. So I've scored the average there. It's dependent on lots of things. I did Genesis pretty badly, so I could show you the things, but normally I do that world in a few minutes. It's so easy. But even though if I do it in a few minutes, it still doesn't make me jump anymore. To jump more, you have to have loads of population when you finish, I think, and have a leader. But I'm still not entirely sure about that. Anyway, so this is the next world to conquer Scocumet. So now they can do something. They can do floods, and they will do a flood if you let them. But if you complete the world quickly, they won't do a flood. They're still very slow and very low, but we're now on desert landscape, so perish rate is quite fast here. It's very fast actually, and water is now harmful, so they don't drown in the water immediately. They now take a while to drown, so you can get them up, which is useful because they can do floods, so you don't die immediately. Yeah, the drown rate is quite fast. That is very fast because it's desert. Swamps are now shallow, so they disappear now, but it's still towns or people. And I will do Scocumet in the next video and explain a bit more about the game. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.